Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream of Magic the Gathering Arena. Today is Monday, June 1st, which we can show we are now at the end of the month and our constructed and draft rankings are done so we can claim those rewards. I wanted to prove to any doubters out there that sometimes I actually do something useful. So you may notice that there is a clock counting up on the screen at the moment. That will go away in just a second. We've now gone back down to bronze tier 4 and silver tier 3. I guess that means mostly today we should be just playing ranked. Yeah, I don't think there's really much else to say here. So yeah, this clock is a Lua script, Lua, a language that I'm not familiar with, but looks to be not too different from Python if I was to compare it to something, and Python's a pretty easy language, and if you generally understand how to program 2 or 3 languages, you generally aren't thrown for a loop in most other languages, assembler language being like the major exception there. And so the idea here is I've consistently wanted a clock that would count upwards as soon as I hit start streaming, start recording, so I just know how long I'm going. Unfortunately, at the moment, there's a couple of problems with it. One, you have to have the text on screen, it seems. I don't know a way where I could put the countdown clock, say, over to the right or left of the screen so only I can see it on my second monitor, which at that point it becomes really useless. Even if I made this incredibly small, it wouldn't be very helpful. 2, at its current form, since this is just a script that was built in that I've modified slightly, there was a default countdown script that you could set for like 5 minutes, start your stream, and then have it count down and have people wait for you. The problem there is my web peak option, when I come over here and show something off, it then resets it because the countdown is triggered when a video source is activated. So that still needs some work, but that was about 5 minutes before today that I did that, so I figured I'd show it off. You also have to have a text source that then the script manipulates on as far as a source in your setup in OBS. That's not a big deal. We have green, but we kind of need to re-roll something, so let's go ahead and swap this. Yeah, that should work. I would be, at the moment, playing The Evil Within 2. Unfortunately, it is consistently crashing not only itself, but all of Steam after about 8 hours of being paused. Like, every single night that I go to sleep, leaving it paused, it crashes. And it's the only game I've seen it be this insanely consistent about that. And it's kind of a very modern game to be crashing. And it does kind of feel like it's crashing in a very odd way. There really isn't too much more to say even about The Evil Within 2. It's not a great experience. It feels like it's a complete change from the first game. It feels fairly linear, but it tries to give you these very small open world sections. You're not really fighting a lot of zombies. I'm like 6 hours in and I've barely killed 150 zombies. And some of that was by being rather thorough. The zombies mostly seem like they can kill you in 2 or 3 hits if the game really would let you. But there's so many ways, on casual at least, to avoid that from happening. And they, on casual at least, are not bullet sponges really. So you can shoot them with an upgraded handgun and they die in 1 hit in most cases. So there's just like a whole balance there. And as far as the difficulty setting goes, if you're on casual mode, you can't turn the difficulty up even foregoing any achievements or anything. So I feel like I chose poorly by choosing casual, and now I'm just way too pot committed to reset the game and play on a higher difficulty. But I also don't feel like there's really a reason why I would want to play the game a second time either. It really doesn't pull you along like Resident Evil 4 did, in which you were just constantly finding new enemies and new scenarios and new challenges. Like in Resident Evil 4, you'd go through a door, there'd be a whole very well thought out room of enemies and lots of thinking as far as the placement of those enemies. In Evil Within 2, it's kind of just an intersection in the streets, and there's just kind of zombies wandering around, and that's it. There's nothing special there. Talking about magic, these secret layers are coming out. There's a lot of them. There's a whole bundle. Like, each of these secret layers are available for like 1 day, or you can buy the entire bundle for like somewhere around $300 and get one fetch land at random. These secret layers at this point just go to show that the Wizards of the Coast is incredibly greedy and incredibly trying to cut out the middleman, while also not really offering refunds to North American people. Like, you literally aren't able to get a refund at all in North America, which is crazy. And the only reason you probably can get it anywhere else is because of like European Union rules. So yeah, Magic is just getting like pooped on by their own creators, how I see it. Here's a Domino pack for 700. I guess we'll take that. And the rest of these are just skins, so we don't need to worry about that. And nothing new is happening for a while, by the looks of it. Like, yeah, it really is hard to maintain enthusiasm for Magic when you see how terrible Paper Magic is and how terrible their fans are treated. Right, so Dominaria cards are cards I definitely don't have, but I think they are also called cards that aren't even in standard play anymore. So I am just kind of going further and further down that route of trying to get a complete collection from the perspective of Magic Arena. Whereas these Ikora cards, we've really hit a point where we have overpurchased, even by opening only about 30 packs at the beginning of this expansion. We overpurchased. And we're just getting a lot of extra commons and a lot of extra rares, uncommons, not rares, but yeah. There definitely is a feeling of a path towards acting with addiction in opening these packs, really, too, because at a certain point, the way they've balanced everything out, it does feel like you could just open up pack after pack after pack, just open up 50 packs on a weekly basis to try and get the one mythic rare you don't have, compared to getting 5, 6, 7 copies of all of this. And see, I don't know if local game stores would even give you a penny for a lot of the commons, like, because that's just like the craziness of it. I can't imagine that there would be a person who would be willing to pull out the binder and say, well, this common, we already have dozens and dozens of these, We can't give them away. There's not that many kids and new players coming to a store, I would imagine. Let's just look here as far as, let's see if we can filter this way. As far as Ikra cards. Yeah. We have, from the looks of it, pretty much everything in at least one copy, and then a lot of times it seems like just 2 copies or 3 copies. And the only thing we don't have are these, which, yeah, I don't know if I have enough mythic rares to make that worthwhile, because these are all mythic rares, right? No, actually it's only 1 mythic rare. So I could use like 4 mythic rares to get that, or just make sure I have one of those. It doesn't feel like there's a system here that shows that they know what you have and what you don't. Yeah, we have all the uncommons and commons. Let's switch this now to Dominaria, that pack we just opened. Yeah, we can see we have a decent amount of cards we have not collected in Dominaria. But it would be fairly silly to do that when, honestly, if we're going to do anything, we should try to have a standard set of all of these. I only have like 15 common wild cards, so this would be fairly hard to pull off. Let's see. Common cards in standard. That I don't have enough to craft all of those. And then uncommon cards. There's fewer of them. I could probably get 1 of every uncommon card in standard, but there's really no reason to do that now, since standard's about to change. The real move would be to try and just have everything in these 3 collections and move forward. And sure, I could do this. And we've seen like Midnight Clock used. It's not a bad idea to craft this. But at what point do we craft it? Do we craft it now, or do we craft it at the next expansion? We don't have a lot of news, because news didn't really happen over the weekend. Well, which is to say, news definitely happened over the weekend, but not any news video game related. So I'm not looking to discuss non-video game news. So it would be a pretty good day to do draft, but it is also, since it's the first day of the month, a pretty good day to do ranked. And I think what I want to do is save our gold up a little bit, and I guess next expansion we're probably only going to open about 20 packs. It seems like a really small number, but it seems like that might be closer. 20. Let's go 25. Let's work from that thought. And I want to wait until there is a draft that is not an Ikra draft. On the mastery over here, we still need to get up to 80, so there's definitely some victories that we need, and this expires in 23 days. So yeah, we have 1 month to get up to that point, which shouldn't be any problem. So we should just hop into the game and we should be fine. Yeah, and we had already kind of talked about The Evil Within. So it's probably going to be slightly a slower day today, I guess. That since there's not a lot to talk about in general. Yeah. So we may just cover the video game news and then play, and if I get to the point where I don't want to play on screen anymore, I might just at that point swap over to playing off screen if I don't get all the victories. Usually we don't have this opportunity or this point where it makes sense that you can that I could just focus 100% on gameplay and not even talk about the news. But that's not really the goal either, because I wanna talk about the video game news, and if there's no video game news to do, then I want to just have an accelerated experience, and get some extra time to jump back to playing Evil Within. I still am uncertain whether I want to try and play yet another game to get up to a fourth game after the Evil Within 2. We have a AAA game in the Evil Within 2. We have an old puzzle point and click game in the form of the 11th Hour, and we have what was supposed to be a horror visual novel game in the form of 999, but really turned into more of a just anime drama visual novel more than anything else. So yeah, I would have to look at the collection of the other games I wanted to cover and see if there's something I want to put the effort into to play. I have been expanding my views on YouTube of covering like first-person shooting games and 90s first-person shooters in particular. So I saw like a review of Fear 2 after I've covered Fear 1, and then kind of didn't even bother to do the DLC. And it seems like Fear 2 is kind of a reboot, soft reboot of the series. So I don't know really if I want to go through that effort and make a coverage this quick to cover Fear 2, but that is an option. I guess there might be a question about, is there a reason to play Left 4 Dead 1 and try and play that multiplayer game and show what the experience would be with that? There probably are several other things. I know I have the Lucas series, and I've been wanting to get around to playing the Lucas series for a while, but that's going to be a little bit too buggy of a horror game to put through its paces. There probably is a room for maybe a kid's horror game if there were any, but I don't think there are any. I don't think there's a room for another AAA shooter zombie game. And it's silly to cover something like Plants vs. Zombies or anything like that, because those kinds of games aren't really horrific enough that they should be in the October month. If I had a walking simulator, I may have like Amnesia or something along that lines. So I could see potentially trying to do something like that, Amnesia or Outlast, doing something on that line might work. But yeah, I'll really have to just think about how long it takes me to actually finish the Evil Within, because I'm really not certain. I don't recognize this card. Flying Haste gets +2 at the end of the turn. Escape, exile 3 other cards from your graveyard. Escapes with a +1/+1 counter on it. Phoenix of Ash. This is a new logo icon, which I guess is the escape icon. Choose wisely here. I don't think the guy was paying enough attention there. I am probably dropping the ball by not playing something, or maybe he was paying enough attention. I probably am dropping the ball by not paying attention to having a companion. Seems like everybody needs a companion these days. It is also, I guess, still questionable what the plans are for November. I think at that point it really is just going to be a reevaluation of what games were recorded before October. Do we want to continue that thread, or does the thread of games that were being covered as far as a logical concept get stopped? And do we just start with a whole new collection of different games? Typically there is some kind of thread. Like I'll play one game and then I'll play another game that feels somewhat like that one game, or feels like it is a almost logical argument against that one game. There definitely are some games I just don't have that I'd like to cover. You know what? It wouldn't be terrible if we covered Grim Fandango for October. It's not really a horrific game. You're just playing as a Grim Reaper, but I don't know if I really need to do that. Direct current, 2 damage to any target. Well, geez. This is just Spark with Jumpstart, I guess. Like I said before, there's really not a lot of news. There's not no news, but I can say I can already see the beginning of the end. And while I might be able to reload my Twitter feed and get 1 or 2 new things, we're not really going to have a lot of that. Yeah, unless this guy just has quite a lot of cards, which he kinda doesn't. So we just block that, we sacrifice that. And then going forward next turn we can probably use the spinning wheel to tap that, so we won't even take 2 damage. And we may not quite have enough. Generally speaking, we may not quite have enough to play Bullet Citadel. but I don't think it matters much. So yeah, as soon as this guy plays, we can tap that. And his spell. Jumpstart only lets you play that card like once, one extra time. It doesn't let you just play it over and over again. That would be too easy. We pretty much have a victory here. He's got nothing. I can block him with this, and then I can sacrifice. And so he chose not to attack at all. Which isn't going to help him. Unless he draws a card that can do 3 damage. And even if he did draw a card that did 3 damage, it wouldn't help him. Not now, at least. Yeah, and we're in a funny position here where if there was something I wanted to talk about more that happened over the past week, I don't remember it at all. So there's not a lot of past conversation that can be brought up. It doesn't seem like too much is happening generally in the video game world. Yeah, The Last of Us is coming out for real now, and doesn't seem like too many people are gonna probably mention it much because of just other things happening, and the fact that people that were super hyped for The Last of Us probably are not. A lot of them probably are going to be disappointed in such a way that they don't want to say come out and rail it. They probably just want to let the conversation not happen or die. And people that were going to hate on The Last of Us no matter what, for one reason or another, have been heard so much that there's really no reason why you would want to hear them yet again. So I don't know if there's really any good, I don't know if there's really any good argument towards trying to get a good review or commentary on The Last of Us. If anything, I suspect if The Last of Us series ever came to PC, which maybe that will happen, then at that point I would be willing to play the game, and I probably would, like most people, like the first one, and I wouldn't be surprised if I, outside of all the other drama around Last of Us, liked the sequel fairly well too. It probably is just going to be an average game. Now, I guess a question to ask here is if the creators of Last of Us are DMCAing people who are talking about the game before release, doesn't that really just put them on the same level as the creators who would DMCA coverage of their game after release? I think it does. I think it pretty much blacklists themselves at that point. I think that would be the real choice there, is that I almost certainly wouldn't ever play the Last of Us series now because of the DMCAs, because as a YouTube content creator, I don't have time for content IDs and DMCAs and things that would risk my entire channel to review one single game. So, yeah, they've effectively earned the blacklist in that idea. Any use of the DMCA improperly pretty much should earn you a place on the blacklist. My internal blacklist, which I'm not really even writing down. This guy's playing a bunch of fetch lands, or Fabled Passage, I think is effectively fetch lands. Oops. Well, that didn't work out the way I wanted it to. That's a crazy card that apparently I could not activate and use. Alright, so let's just go through the news. Gamatsu has an article here for the PS4. Space Channel 5 VR, kind of funky newsflash DLC. Space 39 Miku pack launches July 27th. I think we're hitting the point at the year that the Hatsune Miku event happens. But yeah, this is kind of a weird tie-in in the sense that you would have to have the VR version of Space Channel 5. Not like the original version of the game, which was on the Dreamcast. I don't know if there's been any re-release on PC or anywhere else that gives you a non-VR version of Space Channel 5. There probably should have been something like that. There is also that rumor, and really it can just be left as a rumor at this point, that some company, maybe Sega, is going to do some groundbreaking announcement. Some Japanese company is in the next week or so. If Microsoft acquired Sega, that would be believable. If Sega decided to come out with a console, that would be poorly believable. We know that the Sonic movie is getting a sequel after it being a success. If Sega was selling itself to Sony, that would be interesting if Sony of Japan kind of gave up interest as far as Sony Interactive Entertainment in the PlayStation, so that they could then buy Sega and make a completely different console that's not the PlayStation, and like bring everything over that way. That doesn't really make sense, but that would be a weird turn of events, just to have the two internal competitions by the same competitors, by the same main character, main parent company. So all these guys have menace, and that's the problem. And this one can't defend, so I should just go ahead and attack this. And
shiver my horns and hammer.
It would have been nice here if we're gonna just get victory after victory after victory and quick victory after quick victory after quick victory. It'd be nice if we on a consistent basis, at least once a week, had a experience that was more akin to getting 15 wins on screen. Alright, well, I've lost here. There's nothing I can do. So let's just keep it easy and concede and move forward with our lives. We are on silver tier 1, which means I think if we get up to this, we'll be at gold tier. And then that gives us a locked in position where we could stay from gold tier up to try to get to platinum tier and try to get even higher up than that. Here we have a game on Steam called Aliens Love Beef, which looks like it is a game where you play as an alien trying to kidnap cows. At least that's what the trailer looked like. But from the screenshots, it seems like you have these tiny little planetoids that you fly around. And I'm not really seeing a UI or anything here that really feels like this would be fun or interesting. Here's the cows. It requires VR. It's $8.49. It's English only. You know what we should do? Like, and this would be crazy to do this, but what if we did a wish list cleanup? Like, I needed to do that anyways. Could we do something crazy here and merge a longer episode of this into a wish list cleanup where I just decide to remove some games from the wish list, which probably there wouldn't be too much I'd take off the wish list, and it would be a lot of just looking at the wish list. That's a thought. Let's get through the news and then evaluate to see if that's something I would want to do. Because the wishlist cleanups up until this point have been separate things, and they certainly have gone 2 or 3 hours to go through just a few letters on the follow list. It would be fairly difficult to pull that off. But we could do a little bit of the work. So there might be some logic in that. Next we have a game on Steam called Hype Monsters 3. This looks to me like it's a tactical placement game RPG with monsters that look like they are kind of card-based Pokemon. This is free to play, MMO with in-app purchases. It's English and Chinese. It definitely felt like it was a Chinese game because it clearly is just ripping off Pokemon or trying to be something like Pokemon. This doesn't look terrible though, so if you were into the free-to-play concept, I wouldn't say immediately just reject this idea just because it's a Pokemon ripoff looking game. But since I don't cover free-to-play games, that's easy for me to ignore. This next one's tagged not safe for work, so interesting. We don't even really see not safe for work as a tag in most games. Usually, anyways. Usually it's always tagged nudity or sexual content. But here we have a game called Santa Monica Paradise, which looks like it's a Western visual novel. It's a little white in the background, and it looks like there's a lot of boxes down at the bottom that I don't know what those would be. And it does seem like this might be somebody taking someone's story and converting it to a visual novel It's $3.59, which makes it really cheap. Apparently there's a bundle for $4.06, and it's English only. Yeah. And so, no full audio text pretty much eliminates all of these types of games from consideration going forward. Let's see. Let's go ahead and attack here. Well, if I attack here, you'll block. It is an interesting idea. I don't know if this really is the case or not, but it's an interesting idea that there might be some authors out there who write short story romance novels, just dime rag stuff that you would typically see sold, at least in the previous generations, sold for really cheap on and printed on really cheap paper. Take that same concept and then hire an Asian company to just put it in as a visual novel and sell it for $3 or $4. You'd expand your audience pretty well there, and it's not like most visual novel readers would care or recognize that this is the same story that might have been printed in a book, and it might have been a more linear experience. Particularly if you were going to do something like that, you would just have no forms of branching past in the story at all. It would just be a direct, basic visual novel. But yeah, I think that probably would work. And for the low price of $100 to be listed on Steam, I could see plenty of authors thinking about doing that. They probably would spend more money having it animated, but you use asset flips, you use pre-made characters, and you just do it cheaply and lazily. Copying English to English is not too hard. I wouldn't be surprised if this is not a thing that has happened before, if it becomes a thing that happens eventually. Of course, the problem with books in general is that everybody wants to be an author and very few people want to actually read. So you have a high supply and a low demand. Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called Skinwitch, which looks to me like it's a horror game. It's tagged as a first-person shooter, and it does seem like amongst all these dark screenshots, there are actually some horror adventure elements over here, and kind of a heads-up display. But the dark screenshots kind of eliminate it, and yeah, it's just too dark of a game. It seems like you're fighting some kind of Wendigo or werewolf or something, and it's $12.99, which is rather expensive. So I think I don't want to put this on the follow list. Man, I am not winning. Probably would be a good time to think about a deck rebuild, but it is still unfortunately a bad time to think about a deck rebuild also, because, well, there's just too many other cards that are going to show up in the core 2021 set, although maybe those cards will just be the same old cards and a deck rebuild at this moment would be fine. I probably am just stupidly sticking with this Out for Blood deck, which did get us 2 platinum in all fairness, but it also seems to have some flaws in it, and probably could do for some improvement. Next, we have a game on Steam called To the Edge of the Sky, which has a unique art style. It's maybe a little bit colored markery-ish, but it doesn't look too terrible. This feels kind of asset flippy, and these eyes and the faces look pretty poor in angles. It feels like it's a visual novel, a Western visual novel game. Although it's not tagged as that, it's tagged instead as an adventure action RPG. So, but then up here it says indie visual novel. It's free, but then it's $12.59 for book 1, and then another thing for $2 more. So it's like actually $15 for the game, and it's English only, no full audio. Yeah, and with my newly learned reticence for playing visual novels, seeing games like that are fairly easy to just reject immediately and say, no, I don't think I want to play that. Next, we have a game on Steam called Battle for the Kingdom, which looks like it is some kind of tabletop game where the camera is at a weird angle. And it seems pretty simplistic and asset flippy. Maybe not even asset flippy, maybe just simplistic. It's early access, it's $4.99, it's English only. Yeah. I don't see anything there. Trying to drag this tab. I don't think I can. Alright. TechRaptor has an article here. Woobi Software announces a surprise early Factorio release date, which okay, so Factorio has been in early access for maybe a year or two, as many of these games have been in early access, and much to my annoyance. I wasn't really thinking I'd ever play Factorio, and I still am not really thinking I'd play Factorio. It is kind of an odd step game for my tastes, in the fact that it is kind of a half programming game and half real-time strategy game. And yeah, I've done enough programming games, and if I'm going to do a real-time strategy game, I'm going to do a much more memorable one like Command & Conquer. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Tales of Glory, which, bucks and winches aside, seems to just be yet another one of these medieval games where you play as medieval people just fighting. So many of these must have been inspired by things like Skyrim and The Witcher 3, but they really had no story writing whatsoever, so that they're not really Witcher 3. What is a bounty counter? Puts a bounty counter on this guy. What does that do? Tales of Glory is also a VR game, and I really didn't see that part, I guess. And it's $29.99, which makes it too expensive for a VR game, really, for what it's showing. It's English only with full audio, allegedly this time. Let's see. It has a bounty counter on it. I have no idea what a bounty counter does. So I might as well just attack, I guess. Next, we have a game on Steam called The Sight in a Mirror, which looks like a horror walking simulator game with a lot of dark screenshots again. This is $1.99 English only. And I'm definitely not moving fast today, so it would be fairly silly for me to try to do a wishlist cleanup. I definitely couldn't do a follow list cleanup, even if I was just going to do all the A's. That would just break up everything really badly. But if I was just going to go look at my wish list in totality and just think about, hey, are there any games here that really should just be removed? I would have to kind of wake up a little bit more and move a little bit faster. I might win here. Next, we have a game on Steam called The Lost Labyrinth. It's just a match 3 game. It looks fine, but yeah, $4.24 and a whole bunch of languages support. RetroArch is listing their videos on Daily Motion also, which I guess that would be a thought. Certainly, I didn't realize that people could upload videos to Daily Motion. Maybe I should put my videos on Daily Motion just as yet another backup place. I have like 50, I think, followers on Twitch as a dead channel, effectively, that was only being used to automatically upload videos and then failed to actually consistently do that because the website plugin API things changed. Like, I would take any income I could get. I'd be a fool not to, but I certainly wouldn't feel easy or happy if it turned out that I was somehow making like major profit from Twitch. I somewhat trust YouTube a little bit more. Let's go ahead and attack here. In the turn. Next, we have a game on Steam called Indie Dev Simulator, which is already rated mixed. This is again just a like mobile game simulator. It doesn't even look that bad, frankly. It must just be boring or uninteresting. It's $6.29, which is a little too expensive, and it was originally at some point called Dev Me. I will take it off the follow list since it's mixed and since I have no real interest in that. It does seem fairly ridiculous for people, game creators, to make games where they're effectively simulating / whining about what their lives are as game developers. Like, don't get me wrong, I know that video game development sucks and there's tons of crunch and people are just mistreated like crazy, but that happens to a lot of people in a lot of jobs, particularly in the United States, and complaining about it yourself is not taking the nuance of everyone else's life and reality in general. It would be much better if somebody was going to make a simulator that is simulating a hard work environment for it to be, say, a blacksmith simulator, because that would be something people are less familiar with, or a weaver simulator, some playing as like a old woman or underage child weaving together socks or something in a third world country, or a chocolate farming simulator showing the horrific situation of cacao bean farming, or just a ranch hand or farming simulator and how difficult that life is for usually immigrants in the United States. Like, there's better stories that people could relate to or sympathize with a lot more than somebody whose worst problem really is just that his game doesn't sell quite enough or doesn't sell at all. Alright. Let's attack. So this would get 6 damage, and this will do 4. So I don't know if we're quite ready to take the guy out, but we probably are somewhere close. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Unless I miscount here, we should be able to just win this. And let's just see if that happens. Yep, right on the number. That's like our first win today. So maybe things will turn around and we'll start getting more wins in a row. Next game we have on Steam is called Don't Fall. This seems to be like that game Spleef in Minecraft, where you're trying to get people to fall and dropping the blocks out from under them. This is not visually nice to look at. It's a weird angle and doesn't seem like there's a lot of variety there. So yeah, this is early access, free to play, English, allegedly full audio. Just nothing there that catches my eye. Play this, play this. Next we have a game on Steam called Electro Ride the Neon Racing, which is probably just an Outrun clone. Well, it's some kind of racing game with neon colors, and I am not a fan of games that are just overly full of neon colors. Oddly, this game is not even listed. It's apparently already been taken off of Steam, or something weird's going on. I guess I could reload and we could see if the price tag is there now. Nope. Interesting. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article here for the PS4 and Switch. Dungeon RPG Toho Labyrinth Jinsokyo to Tenkan. No Taiju has been announced. This is due out digitally this summer. This is a Toho series game, which seems to always be this really long series, but I'd say it's also a spin-off game, not part of the main line, and it's not a shoot 'em up game. And when we can see actual gameplay amongst all the conversation, it doesn't even look that interesting. It's funny that they're calling that a dungeon RPG too. I'm not sure I would describe that as that. I would almost call it a board game style experience. But maybe it is somewhat emulating the experience if you were playing something like Hero Quest. Not so much like Dungeons and Dragons. Moving on, Gematsu has an article here. Future Game Show 2020 is going to feature over 30 games from Square Enix, Deep Silver, Digital Devolver, and more. So this is probably the E3 replacement. Uncharted series voice actors Emily Rose and Nolan North are going to host. Those are big name people too, so Future Games Show instead of E3. It's being presented by Games Radar, if that means anything. Probably not, though. Let's see. Gamma Sutra has an article here. EB Games Australia admits to misleading customers over Fallout 76 refunds. So there's still fallout from Fallout 76. The company had been advising customers who's purchased Fallout 76 they were not entitled to a refund, despite them experiencing a range of faults with the title, including bugs and server issues. They brought it to the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, the ACCC, which, yeah, I wish people in the United States had more protection there for these types of actions, but it seems like a lot of people get away with a lot of shady stuff that they shouldn't be allowed to do. TechRaptor has an article here. Double Fine Presents, it has been confirmed to be winding down. Now, if I remember right, which I don't think I do, says Double Fine Presents is the indie publishing wing of Tim Schafer's Double Fine studio, although Double Fine is now owned by Microsoft, so there would really be no reason why Microsoft would go through Double Fine to be a publisher. That's redundant. Also, I don't think Double Fine Presents has really shown or listed anything in quite a while. It was originally implemented in 2014, and yeah, this might be the beginning. This might be the beginning of end of Double Fine in general. Like, I really think Microsoft probably wanted just to hire some of the employees from Double Fine, not Tim Schafer. I think Tim Schafer will probably get a payout and be asked kindly to leave. But then they also wanted to make sure Psychonauts gets finished, Psychonauts 2, and then that's just going to be the end of Double Fine. Which, in all fairness, a lot of the original people who formed Double Fine from LucasArts have not been able to successfully do the things that they should have been able to do, like release more LucasArts style games that actually sold. And while I've liked a couple of things Double Fine has done, a lot of the things they've done fell flat. Brutal Legend is a prime example of that in particular. that should have been the thing that set them on a whole new path and made their company succeed. So some games that Double Fine presents published would be Everything, GNOG, and Knights and Bikes. So I think Knights and Bikes is about a year old. So that's probably the last things. Yeah, and Psychonauts 2 is supposed to come out sometime this year. And if it doesn't, there's gonna be trouble. Let's see. I think there'd be trouble for Tim Schafer. But yeah, I heavily suspect after Psychonauts 2 comes out, that'll be the end of Double Fine as a studio. And I don't even think they're going to do something like change the name to Microsoft or a Microsoft name or merge it with some other company. I think they'll just transfer a lot of employees to different divisions and shutter it. In a funny way, it does really feel like Microsoft is kind of not the company to go to if you want to actually make games, because Microsoft has to keep on hiring these companies to have games to release in their lineup. Now, my suggestion or my thought was what they should do is, and Microsoft certainly has enough manpower that they could have or do have to do this, is they really should just go back to like all the failed games that they might have cheap licenses for or not have to license at all, and make short, small experiences. Even if they wanted to make like a Smash Brothers style game, get Joanna Dark from Perfect Dark into a game just to remind people that that character once existed and was something, just to test the water. Get all the characters from Killer Instinct, get Halo characters, get any small game that might have been overlooked, and try to re-establish the IPs and at the very least renew the copyrights on those IPs and see if you can build some interest. They probably should balance out an idea with that, like that, with also just letting some of their more ambitious employees pitch games and make small game pitches, vertical slices that could be given away or shown off, just to have a really big launch lineup. There really is no connection on any console with, hey, we've got a new console out here, hey, here's some new games and some new concepts to go with that console. Instead, it's all about having third-party developers who very often are working on their third game in a trilogy and hoping that those will be the system sellers, while not having any added value. And it's been that way for a while. There was at one point like little arcade games that would sell, like the Xbox 360 arcade bundle, like just Feeding Frenzy and Boggle and things like that were actually nice little value adds to get, and they've kind of gotten away from that. But yeah, I would like to see Microsoft invest in more games, smaller games, not big games, not go the route of Crackdown 3, which, boy, does that game not make too much sense right now in the current environment. But yeah, they overcommitted on showing off their Microsoft Azure server technology, which has nothing to do with video games and was never going to have anything to do with video games really, and that they were trying to show off that technology instead of saying, hey, let's just make a quick and dirty crackdown and get it out in a reasonable amount of time and not delay, and use the rest of our resources to just continue to make more and different games. I think also Microsoft probably would benefit from broadening its scope as far as the types of games it creates and it promotes a little bit more than Sony and PlayStation would need to do that. And the Nintendo Switch is all over the place as far as different types of games that are available, so that scope is as wide as possible. Like, you wouldn't think for an Xbox that something like The Binding of Isaac could be a system seller, but for the Switch, The Binding of Isaac Rebirth on the Switch very well did probably sell a few units of the hardware, because that's something that has a niche audience, and I think the niche audience would have been more willing to support it. Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called Methods, the Detective Competition, which seems like this is... I don't know if I want to call this bad animation, or if this is more just kind of a weird art style. Very angular, very sharp square jaws. Yeah, I don't think I can immediately say this is bad. It's tagged as a visual novel, funny mystery. It's $16, and apparently our connection is lost. So let's see if we can reconnect over here while we're doing this. CG 25 interactive crime scenes. I'm really trying to think, is there a justification to put this on the fall list? It looks a little different, so I'm willing to give it a chance. Things like this scene makes it seem a little bit more than just a visual novel, but yeah, generally speaking, I shouldn't be giving it a chance. I should just ignore it as far as I'm ignoring a whole bunch of other visual novels. This guy's just saying hello, hello, hello. Could that possibly cause network lag and let people cheat? That's a question. Certainly. It shouldn't allow for that, certainly. We'll see if anything wants to attack. This one can't be blocked. That one can't be blocked. We'll see if anybody else is going to attack. Nope, so we'll just do this. See, TechRaptor has an article here, Crumbling World Review. Another game I haven't heard of. It seems like it's kind of a Diablo looking game with maybe a very small isometric angle of vision to it and kind of low polygon art. Yep, wow, 3.0, that is a low number. Crumbling World is another disappointment. What happens to be an exciting experiment or a possible indie gem turns out to be quite the opposite. What appears to be an exciting thing. So, like, the cynical version of me could say, well, I guess the check didn't clear on that one, but the more realistic version of me says probably TechRaptor should give more 3.0s. I believe that is game. Yeah, the pros on the game reviewer is that it has a gorgeous art style and intriguing lore. The cons are it has janky animation lacking any depth, completely fumbled core mechanic, and it's buggy beyond belief. And is this author someone I recognize? No. I really do feel like TechRaptor has just hired a lot of new reviewers, and it's going to take me a while to decide whether I appreciate their reviews or if they're way off the mark, or if I can get something from their reviews even if I don't agree with them. Come on, game. I may have to crash out here. Let's see. Yep. I'm gonna have to crash out because this is not letting me click anywhere. Meanwhile, we have a game on Steam called Simply Puzzles Code Words, which looks like it's a crosswords game. The soft blue background is not the greatest. You can definitely see in the gray here that would be hard to read. Not sure if you really would want to do crosswords on your puzzle. And honestly, if you wanted to do crosswords on your puzzle, I think you can get and download those fairly easily and use them just in a PDF format or in any other simple format. So this is offering for $2.99 100 crosswords, and in English only, and then 10 achievements, 100 crosswords. Not particularly a large amount of crosswords. So yeah, I don't think so on that. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Zynga acquires Toon Blast and Toy Blast developer Peak for $1.8 billion. So, okay. Why are these mobile games still getting acquired? Speaking of mobile, there was something weird going on with my cell phone. I think it just updated, and then all of a sudden the lock screen was different. There was like a blue light that was showing up under the navigation buttons at times. I have no idea what happened, so either I've gotten an update and they really didn't bother to tell you that it was going to be drastically different in the update, or something weird went wrong. So I reset my phone and I'll see if it continues to do that. We are getting to the point where Android does seem like it changes a little bit more than my taste would prefer. Like, I think we have hit a point where implementation improvements are now falling more along the lines of being simply changes for changes' sake. A lot of times, like Windows works, where things just get changed in Windows for no good reason. Alright. Yeah, we can go ahead and take that action. It won't really hurt us. Next, we have a game on Steam called The Walking Fish 2 Final Frontier, which looks like a horror asset flip game. Yeah. With just some dark screenshots again. And this is probably a monster, but even I can't tell what this is. Kind of looks like it's a a turkey or something without any feathers. It's $4.49, English full audio. Yeah, there's nothing there. Let's see, put that on the field. Put that on the field. And decline that. No actions. Actually, I could have taken that action, it wouldn't have mattered. Probably should have blocked that. Alright, let's do this. And we gotta figure out, are we gonna do this right? Or are we gonna do this wrong? Let's see. Gamatsu has an article here. A visual novel called Milky Way Prince: The Vampire Star has been announced for the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC, coming out June 9th. That's kind of dark as far as imagery or art style. Maybe not imagery. That's probably the wrong one. Yeah, this does not look well animated. So, I don't know, unless this is going to try and sell itself on a very good story, I don't buy it. It kind of feels a little bit like that Netflix anime series Devilman Crybaby, which I tried to watch and got bored by the art style and just what they were choosing to depict, to the point where I was like, yeah, let's just skip to the end and see if the ending is really great. And no, I was bored by that also. Devilman Crybaby in particular feels like an animator that really just wanted to see how far they could really push the limits with Netflix and see if they really were going to get censored or not, and it seems like they weren't for the things that they did animate to put on the show. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article here. Paradox Interactive founds Paradox Tinto to work on grand strategy games. So there's a new studio that's going to work on Europa Universalis franchise. Does it show where it's coming from? It's in Barcelona, Spain. Okay. So that'll be interesting to people who are interested in the Europa Universalis series, or I don't even remember the name of it. Europa Universalis, yeah. Series. And probably not interesting to anyone else. TechRaptor has an article for Prey VR listed by the PlayStation 4 for the PlayStation 4 by a retailer. So if there is a Prey VR, what would it be? Would it be an attempt at making people play the original game Prey, or would it be some different experience completely? Prey is one of those games that I feel like I'd like to play a little bit earlier than normal. But also, it's just yet another Bethesda game, yet another game that's going to be a little overpriced. It would be a nice game to compare to The Evil Within, and I don't think Prey particularly is that spooky of a game. And then I would definitely like to compare the experience between playing the main game and the Mooncrash DLC. But honestly, I probably, before I got around to playing Prey, I would probably be better to play Dishonored 2, since I've already played Dishonored 1. I've played Dishonored 1 twice at this point. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Survivalist Invisible Strain, which just looks like a survival game. It does have kind of a nice comic book look to it, but I don't know if there's any game here I really want to play. Like, it does have a nice polish to it. Early access, $5.24, English only. This is a game I think I just want to leave, and if it does turn out to be really, really good, and it's somehow like the next Fortnite or something, we'll hear about it. If it isn't, then it won't be. The developer is just going by the name Bob, and previously there is this game Survivalist that is rated very positively. So if anything, I should think about putting this on the fall list. 99 cents, single player. Yeah, I guess maybe if it's more of a single player experience, that might be a better sales pitch. 99 cents is not a lot to ask. And Invisible Strain does look like it is slightly better visuals than the previous game. Yeah, I just don't know. I don't know if there's enough here, because it kind of feels like it's a don't starve type game. So I'm going to put the first one in the series on the fall list and think about it. By the time I get to the S's in a fall list cleanup, I almost certainly will have been so frustrated by bad games that I will reject it just because of its visuals. I probably should just reject it immediately because of its visuals, but yeah, try to be more open-minded, give it a chance. Gamma Sutra has an article here. HP debuts the $600 Reverb G2 VR headset with Valve and Microsoft tech built in. The way I was hearing it, pretty much the reason why Valve is promoting this VR headset is because they just can't make the HTC Vives themselves, or whatever headsets they were making, the Valve Index headsets themselves. Yeah, I think they were Valve Indexes. And they're just trying to get more people to buy Half-Life Alyx and play that. TechRaptor has an article here. Paradox Interactive adds missions to the pre-order DLC for Imperator Rome, or Imperator Rome, which that's another one of those games I probably wouldn't ever play. Let's see, this next game is tagged sexual content, so let me make sure all the screenshots are YouTube family friendly. Okay. Next we have on Steam Sakura Night, which is from Wing Cloud, which I think makes a lot of the games called Sakura. It's tagged sexual content. It's tagged as an anime visual novel. The art here, a lot more colorful, a lot more polished, a lot more anime, definitely. $7.49, English and Chinese. I guess the biggest question to ask is, what is the level of quality for Sakura games? Well, I covered Sakura Clicker a long time ago, and apparently I own Sakura Santa, or it's on my wish list or something. Yeah, I own Sakura Clicker. Every single Sakura game from them is marked as positive. I don't think you're really going to get a ton of good quality imagery or a ton of big time story or anything like that, but for what you do get, I think you have a decent experience. I think the Sakura series kind of reuses art assets and really is just going to show you cleavage more than actual nudity. That it's much more of a lewd teasing type game than full-on uncensored patch type game. And as for the gameplay style of this, I have no idea. They say it's a visual novel. It seems to me like it really is just a visual novel. Defeat that. Defeat that. Will that be enough to save me? No. Actually, it might be. It'll save me for like one more turn. So, I guess at a certain level, it didn't save me. Interesting. A certain level, I guess we are seeing still some slight adult games on Steam, but it does still seem to be fewer and more infrequent than usual. And I guess the counter, I wouldn't reset the counter in my head that says when is the last time I saw an actual just like hardcore-ish video game released on Steam, for adult game on Steam being released. But I wouldn't be surprised by this time Friday if we do get 2 or 3 of them approved. But also, you know, between all the Asian countries and all the other countries around the world being locked down due to the pandemic, I wouldn't be surprised if there was just a slowdown in the releasing process of those kinds of games. Amongst the slowdown that's obvious amongst the release process of other types of games. It would have been a great time somewhat to, if you had a whole bunch of old games that hadn't been released before and you were going to release them with no competition, but it still wouldn't have been as good of a time as you think, because people probably don't want to spend money and buy games right about now either. At a certain point, a AAA game may bring people to Steam's storefront and convince them to buy a AAA game and a single A game or an indie game or an old game also. In the same way that if you go to Walmart to buy, say, cereal, you're probably not going to walk out of Walmart just buying cereal and nothing else. Moving on, Rockstar Social Club error stops PC gamers from playing GTA 4. So, GTA 4 originally did not have Social Club in it, I'm fairly certain, and they put it in there, crammed it in there, and then they caused an error that stopped people from being able to play the game that would have been playable had they not done the Social Club in the first place. That's not a good testament as far as the experience of having a Rockstar game and it having Social Club integrated into it. I could have attacked with that, but I didn't. Next, we have a game on Steam called Gadonia, which looks like it's a low polygon medieval life simulator. It's tagged as open world. It seems fairly empty as an open world. Open world RPG. This doesn't look terrible though, and I wouldn't really just call it an asset flip game. It's early access, it's $8.99, it's English and Russian. Despite that, I'm gonna put it on the fall list and we'll see what happens. And then, let's see, Gamma Sutra has an article here. Codemaster secures the FIFA World Rally Championship license from 2023, or until 2023, I think would be a better way to phrase that. And with that, I'm at the Humble Bundle store. So let's look at the Humble Bundle, and then I'm going to see if there's any new Humble Bundles, which there isn't. The Bandai Namco bundle ends in 22 hours. And let's see, a couple other bundles end in about a day and 22 hours. But yeah, there's no new game bundles. And I could certainly go back to my Twitter feed, but then that would just cause me to check my Twitter feed twice. So instead, what I'm going to try and do is go to my wish list and see if it can log me in without too much of a hassle. Like the whole two-factor authentication thing on Steam is not as nice as I would like it to be, but it's not terrible. The main problem with it though is that it just doesn't leave you logged in on a PC long enough. And I don't really know a reason for that. Alright. So, we run into some risks. If I sort my wish list by name, we run into a few risks here where you may scroll by some games that are somewhat adult, but I doubt we'll see anything adult in the screenshots, so I think we're kind of fine. Like .hackgu here, and when we hover on things we might see something more. We're not going to really cover everything, we're just going to keep an eye on this. This one, Observer, needs some investigation because of that. Root Leather is a visual novel, and I need to think about whether I want to do that. See, we're mostly keeping an eye to see if everything's very positive. I imagine things are. This game out of the box, I don't recall, so I'm going to look at that. Now, taking any of these off the wish list will be a pain in the butt. 11 memories retold, not seeing anything there. Alright, 1 second, I want to check something. Sorry about that. Apparently, somebody delivered a package and knocked on my door, and it sounded like something else. And on top of that, there was a flickering of electricity. Seems like more and more there's less electricity to go around in the summers these days. And the irony of the package delivery is that it almost certainly is a return box for a piece of equipment. So it's an empty box sent to me so that I can fill it, so that then I can return a piece of equipment. So, well, kind of a waste. But they do have a system there that's a little bit better, I think, than it would seem. I don't think the boxes actually come from a major, like, shipping facility for specific companies as much as just UPS and FedEx says, hey, send a box, it needs to be this big, and put a label on it. Although sometimes it totally is a return box from a major shipping facility full of foam and the right kind of packing material. And it is totally worth it, from what I've seen, to make sure that things are packed well if it's even like $100 item, because the UPS, FedEx, USPS, all of them kick around boxes like crazy and will break things like crazy if you don't pack it just absolutely as good as humanly possible. Moving on, though, let's see. 2023 AD. That looks like a visual novel. So let's think about that. Here we've got a game called 40 Winks that's mixed. So let's think about that. Yeah. 7 Billion Humans, that's one I want to play. 7 Scarlet. Let's think about that. And all I'm really going to do in this is just open all these tabs, and then I think I'll spend some extra time off screen organizing those games and looking at them and giving them a second thought. Let's see, we have a game called The Golden Wake, which is a point and click adventure. Blind Legend, which is, I think, a completely blind game. Some of these are just honestly too expensive games, so they're beyond my wish list forever, because I'll just never find a justification. Plague Tale Innocence, another game. Speaking of like games that came out about 6 months ago, Control is down to like $30 on the Epic Store. I just happened to notice that. It's like really, really cheap. And I can't really find a justification for it to be that cheap. Particularly when you look at A Plague Tale Innocence, which is much more of an indie game, still selling for $45. Yeah, A Short Hike. I think I probably want to reconsider that, because that may be more of a Stardew Valley game. Here we have a game called A Wonder. It's mixed. Most of these should not be mixed. All of these should be on the wish list. Very positive. Here we have Absolver. It's mixed, and I had hoped that would have been good. And I guess at some point I do want to play Abzu and Subnautica, so two styles of fish swimming ocean games. Let's see, Excel World plus Sword Art Online Deluxe. This may not really have any relevancy to play, and by the time it would be cheap enough. Ace Combat 7, be a hard sell. Here we have a game called Adventure Slime that apparently is a student project. It says play now. Still want to keep student projects, but I don't know if I'm actually going to get around to playing them. Here we have a couple of Adventure Time games, which I would be more than happy to eventually determine that these have fallen out of relevancy. This one is a 2018, so if we get to 2022 and Adventure Time is just not on TV and not being talked about, at that point I could say, alright, well, there's no relevancy there anymore. Here's another, I assume, student project. Argus of the Generations of War, 1 and 2, and 3. Those aren't visual novels as much as they're, I think, strategy games with visual novel elements. Age of Barbarian, extended cut. This is kind of a ridiculous joke game. Age of Empires 2 and 3. I guess Age of Empires 1 is not available on Steam. It would be my guess. Alright. Well, I boned that up. Right. Yeah, I'm gonna look at a lot of these games off my wish list and potentially decide to not play them. I think Agony Unrated can be removed fairly easily. It has long since fallen out of relevancy and it was never well received. Here we have another game that I think deserves a look at it. Let's see, AI to Somnium Files, I think maybe a visual novel game, but it's very nicely animated, so I'm still willing to put that on the wish list. Akane, I don't think it's a top-down twin stick shooter. Akiba's Trip, or Akiba Strip, still not down to like the $10 I would like it to be at. Well, that was useless. If I could activate this right now. Which is to say, if I could have just gotten a couple more things. How many things are we off here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I literally just needed one creature. That's all I needed. One more character, which is to say if I hadn't attacked earlier, I would have been fine. I'm so close. Alright, moving on. I don't know if I really would want to play Alien Carnage Halloween Harry, but it seems like you can't even buy it. Some of these games are just old, and we really are not getting anywhere where I would like to be as far as these victories. Seems like too many people have the same idea as I do, and they want to play for real, and they want to challenge people and get up in ranked. See, a couple Aliens games. Honestly, I wouldn't be upset with playing like all the Aliens games, even the bad ones like Colonial Marines. Here we have all the delicate duplicates. I want to see what that is, because I don't remember it. Yeah, we have All-Star Fruit Racing. Probably not relevant as a Mario Kart clone. There's probably a few of those in the wish list. In a funny way, that Kondonkawa Jet Ski Girls anime game is perhaps the PC Mario Kart comparison that people are going to get, and that people, regardless of whether they like it or not. So, like, the Senran Kagura creator, I believe, is working on the Jet Ski Girls game and the anime, and after seeing some gameplay, it does look a lot like if you gave a combination of Wave Race and Mario Kart and made a game in between that. So that might be the game to get if you want to play a Mario Kart game. But then that really falls to meet a major criteria of, if you're trying to get a Mario Kart like game on PC, you're probably trying to get it for a younger kid to be able to play it. So at a certain point, very few responsible adults are going to let their kids play an anime game with girls in their bikinis, even if it doesn't really show anything more than that. Now I'm a little interested here in Alone in the Dark 1, because, like, yeah, I would want the first game and the second game and the third game just for historical purposes, but do I really care at all about playing this for $20, which is mostly negative? I don't think so. Or this, which is mixed. I don't think so. And the reboot game here, which is mixed. Like, I think the relevancy stops after Alone in the Dark 3, and it probably stops actually after Alone in the Dark 1. And just buying everything with Alone in the Dark in the name is just falling into the marketing trap of the creators of the game, intentionally naming things Alone in the Dark that really shouldn't have been named Alone in the Dark. Alright, let's see. Alpha Polaris looks fine. Here we have a game called Altered Ego, which is mixed, so I should rethink that. I want to check this game, Always the Same Blue Sky, to make sure it's not a visual novel. And we're just at like the A's. An octave higher might be a visual novel too. Let's see, Analog, A Hate Story, I think is a visual novel too, but it might be more reasonable. Where this game, Anamorphine, unfortunately was mixed. Some of these looked really cool, and they just failed. Ancient Go needs to be removed. Angels of Death is an RPG game that was turned into an anime. It's not particularly great, but if I got it on sale fairly cheaply, I'd be cool with it. Let's do this. Angels of Death's story, as I understand it, is a whole bunch of like crazy serial killers end up in this building, and each floor is run by a serial killer, and this like crazy girl, for lack of a better term, is escaping level by level, trying to avoid dying, even though I think she was suicidal. So yeah. Are we good? Yep, we are good. So there's no reason to take this any further. You know, it is rather hard to get this daily quest that is kill an opponent's creatures, because so often the creatures just don't want to defend. So yeah, I have like 13 more times in which I'd have to have the opponent actually choose to defend a creature with a creature they know is probably gonna die. See, here we have a game called Anima Gate of Memories. More and more I think I'm gonna try and skip things. I guess though, if I'm gonna remove Anima Gate of Memories, which is mixed, then I probably also have to remove Anima Gate of Memories, The Nameless Chronicles. Let's see. Another site, Hodge's Journey, is mixed. I think more than just getting rid of visual novels, we may just get a curation here of mixed reviewed games. Although it really is going to matter a lot just as how willing I am to actually remove these games. Maybe I'll even demote some to the following list and think about it for a while. Paul 11 VR HD, it's fine. I don't recall this game, but it looks interesting. Ark, and then Ark the Great Escape. And see, that was what I was thinking about there. Of course, inevitably, Ark the Great Escape will go on sale for like $2, and then I'll end up buying Ark for $8 to have both to talk about. Like that's one trick that I have definitely seen publishers and developers do. Let's see, what else? Not just gonna name every single game. Arcana Heart Love Max is a fighting game. Arc Noir, we'll check out. There we go. Instant disconnect. I love those free victories. If I could get just one more and make it up to I think gold tier, that would be great. More and more these daily quests that give you cards are going to become more important than you realized when you first would have started a Magic Arena set. It, like, from day one of playing Magic the Gathering Arena, you really should do 15 victories as much as you can until you either burn out with the game or get into the habit of playing that much, because every little extra card you get fills in a wild card or a mythic rare card, or at least an uncommon card, which are way harder to get than just opening packs. Here we have the Art of Murder series, which has like one good game reviewed, and then one negative reviewed, and one mixed reviewed, and then one positive, and then one negative. So the whole series itself is fairly bad, but they do tend to go on sale fairly cheaply. So yeah, there's something to think about as far as that and I think these are all just kind of point and click adventures. Another space adventure remastered edition is mixed, so I'll think about that. Like, the only reason any of these games should even be on the following list and have a below positive review is because their reviews changed at some point. And that really shouldn't have happened as much as it seems to have happened. So my understanding of the reviews that games get in the later point are interesting. I thought I already had Assassin's Creed 3 remastered. Or do I just have Assassin's Creed 3? Ew. That is the next Assassin's Creed game to play in the series, and noticeably I have not really been pushing very hard to play another Assassin's Creed game. So yeah, there's definitely a problem here paying $40 for a mixed reviewed game. Meanwhile, it would be easier to just jump into Origins and jump into Odyssey or jump over the Black Flag. I also don't have Syndicate or Unity or Liberation or Rogue. So it's just a lot of Assassin's Creed games. Here we have a racing game. I'm not sure how many more racing games really need to be played. Astro Breed is like a mech game. Here we have a game called Astral. I honestly don't think I misclicked so many games onto my wish list, but maybe I did. Here we have all the Atelier games, which honestly, they're on the wish list mostly because I want to support them. I probably wouldn't get around to playing a lot of these since Atelier Ryza, the most recent one, is just rated very positively, and it's a great point to jump in and start the series over, because these are like, I think, all new characters in each game anyways, and there's just some major improvements there. But yeah, that's pretty much where I still think it's worthwhile. Attack on Titan games, probably gonna fall out of relevancy fairly eventually. A lot of the anime based games are unlikely to hold their relevancy once the series have stopped airing and once people kind of forget about it. Let's see. Do we see anything else here that is surprising me? Batman Arkham Origins and Arkham Origins Blackgate. If I am going to play Batman Arkham Asylum or Arkham City, which would be the next game in the series, then I probably would want to buy Arkham Origins when it's on sale. And I probably need to investigate what Batman Arkham Origins Blackgate Deluxe Edition is, if that is some standalone DLC, or if that is the same game just with more elements, more DLC built into it. We have Battle Chess 1 and 2, and then Battle Chess Game of Kings, which it might be interesting to compare Battle Chess 1 to Battle Chess Game of Kings to see if it's even from the same creators, because that's mixed and selling for $30, which is way too expensive. Here is Battle Princess Madeline. This was the game that was sold by the guy saying he was basically using his daughter as a prop, as the reason to go rah feminism. I'm making this game for her, but clearly you see it was mixed reviewed, and it definitely didn't get any coverage once it came out. Battlestar Galactica Deadlock. This would be a hard game to justify playing, particularly at the high price. Some of these games just never go down in price. Beatboxers is still mixed. I think that was mixed even when I put it on there because it's like a student project and it looks cool, but it doesn't play right from all reports. I guess Bendy and the Ink Machine has finally been finished as a series. Okay, can I play this to kill this? Let's see. Here we have a game called Beneath the Surface that's free. Here we have a game called Bermuda. Let's check out and see if that is it. We're just to the B's now, so I probably do need to move faster if I'm going to do this. Biomydra is mixed. We'll check that out. Black Closet is not just a visual novel. Black Mesa, $20. No problem there. Do I need to play the remake of Black Mirror that's mixed and selling for $30? I don't think so. I think I should learn my lesson from this, that if people are going to make remakes, particularly Black Mirror series, since I didn't even like any of those games anyways, I don't think they translated to English well. So yeah, I should really just learn my lesson and not play games like that. Just because they have the same names as other games. Let's see. Well, I guess I can attack with this, and you can either defend or take some damage. This is interesting because we have this Blair Witch game that it was mostly positive, and yet there is another Blair Witch game that is coming out, and it seems like this one's not available for purchase anymore. That's a little weird. We have a whole collection of BlazBlue games, and I'm still not really sure I'm going to play fighting games. Let's see. Blood Will Be Spilled. That needs to be reevaluated. Bloodstained, both games. Still kind of expensive, but definitely do want to play those. Blue Reflection is a RPG game by the looks of it. Blueprint Ward D doesn't look good. Bohemian Killing doesn't look good. Bombshell. I'm not sure that Bombshell matters at all. And isn't this the same character they used in Ion Fury? And I don't think there's any relevancy in playing either of those games. Alice in Wonderland, I should think about that, certainly. Trying to target kids' games is kind of crazy. Borderlands 3, I do want to buy at some point, but I'm still trying to stay far away from the launch release because of their stupid exclusivity deal. I don't want 2K to feel like that was a good idea in any way. Plus, probably by the time I get around to playing Borderlands 3, I would be better suited buying the entire game. The complete collection of the game instead of just the initial launch of the game. I don't know if there's actually been any sold DLC for Borderlands 3 at all, come to think of it. Not yet, at least. Let's see, we've got a bridge constructor game. Like, there's several bridge constructor bridge games. And then there's also some other games. Bright Memory is not Bright Memory Infinite. So it's probably a bad idea to buy this game instead of the final version. So I should think about that. Brilliant Shadows Part 1, Book of the Grey Magic. Let's think about that. Brutatel is mixed reviewed. Let's think about that. Here we have something that's early access from 2017. We can definitely take that off. That was probably a misclick if I was to guess. Let's see, what else? Looks like a troll game, but apparently people really like it. I'm gonna investigate that one a little bit. I don't recognize this. Bullet Witch was a terrible game. I don't know if it ever is gonna have relevancy though. I played it and I kind of would like to show it off and talk about it, but it would have to be about $2. Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition is the upgrade to a game I already have, but now it kind of makes no sense to try and play and cover Bulletstorm 1 since Gearbox decided to resell that as the publisher of Bulletstorm. We have Burden of Proof that is like a Ace Attorney clone that I'm not sure I really need to play an Ace Attorney clone, considering I think the Ace Attorney games are actually just on Steam. Here we have one game called Call of Cthulhu, another game called Call of Cthulhu, and a third game called Call of Cthulhu. And then 3 games called Cara Juarez. Let's see. Candle and then Candleman seems to be different. A Capcom beat 'em up bundle. It's probably not a bad deal for $20. Car Mechanic Simulator 2018 might be a little too old, but I would like to play a game like that and maybe learn how to fix more parts of a car than what I currently know, which is barely anything. Let's see, Cat Quest 1, Cat Quest 2. Those are definitely games I wanted. Catherine Classic, maybe not so necessary if you get Catherine Full Body instead. I think that's on Steam, but maybe it isn't. Maybe they still have only released it on the PlayStation 4. But I don't really see a reason to play it at any specific time, particularly if you're playing the older version of the game. But that is a situation that's happening quite a bit, where there are older versions of the game that I may own, and I just don't want to cover them because there's been remasters now released. That is the slight downside of... Is this a visual novel, you think? I'll have to check. Yeah, the slight downside of all these remakes is the possibility that you will run into things like that, situations like that. Here we have Cherry Tree High Comedy Club, which seems to have 3 games that all seem like they might be visual novels, although this one seems like a fighting game. I don't even know if you can buy it. Then we have Chess of Blades. How many chess games do I actually have? see, we have Chess Ultra, which is mostly positive for 1169. We have Chess Area, Tactical Adventure Chess. We have Chess Stir. We have Chex Quest HD, which I think is just a free game. Children of Morta didn't get pulled down, interestingly enough, after that like fatwa or Islamic ruling came out against him. So apparently that was either all BS and just totally misreported, or it didn't matter one way or another. Like, my understanding of Islamic law is almost a zero.
We must fight for a better tomorrow.
So let's see. Chronicles of Teddy is mixed. Chrono Trigger, that's definitely something that would be worth playing. Chuckle, despite the controversy of them redrawing the character, seems like it still would be a fine game to play. The Cinderella Escape games, I don't know how much censoring would actually take to get through all of that on YouTube, so those are kind of just there.
I am proud of those who walk
for me to experiment in case I want to get really ambitious and play more of an adult game. We have a game called Circuit Slinger. City of Brass came and went. It's probably not relevant anymore. Here we have a game called Claire. Clannad as a visual novel is one of the top ones, even the side stories, so that should totally not be touched as a visual novel. Because if I am going to play any more visual novels, Clannad and Steins Gates really are the two that I should play. Come on, let me play. Are you gonna let me play or not? Alright. Man, he's just taking its sweet time. See, we've got a... This might be a hidden object game, so I want to check this. Clockwork Tales is an RPG. Is something... Yeah, let's just keep going. Code Vein, still too expensive, but totally something I would want to play. That looks like a point-and-click adventure. This looks like a pixel art game. I'm a little confused as to why this would have been on the wish list, because it kind of looks like a game I would reject usually. Here we have a game called Cult Express that's mixed. This was the like gay visual novel game that probably would be hard to cover, but certainly would be interesting. I think this is an RPG game that also might be hard to cover, just based on the general concept of the story. Someone being the father of all the future generations. If anything, it's just a rehash of an old anime called DNA Squared, from its general concept. And, I'm sure that concept has been done before. Let's see, Corpse Party is not a visual novel. It's more of something else, more of a branching path experience, I think. Crash Bandicoot. Yeah, I might actually need to buy like more of the Corpse Party type games, but I should probably be very careful about that and get like the first game in the Corpse Party series and see if it actually is a scary game, or if it just sells itself on looking scary but really isn't. And I probably have plenty of other horror games that I could play during the Halloween month instead of that. We have one called Creepy Road that's mixed. Criminal Girls, another adult game that probably would be hard to cover. Crypt of the Necrodancer. I really should think about whether I can play that game or not, because if it actually requires having rhythm, then I wouldn't be able to do it. Let's see. Crystar was talked about and then kind of, well, I saw a few trailers for it and that was about it. Cult Simulator may not really be worth playing because it's not relevant. This Custom Order Made game that's rated very positive and is $40 may not really be relevant because it's just an adult game. Cyber Dimension Neptunia 4 Goddesses Online is probably the only Neptunia game I don't have. Cyberpunk 2077, of course, makes some sense. Cypher, D the Game, D4, Dad's Quest. A lot of these I don't recognize. A lot of these I do. The Danganronpa series might be one to think about. Danger Zone is mixed, so we'll look at that. And I'll just look at all these games after off screen, of course. I'm not gonna go for 4 or 5 hours. Let's see. Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, Dark Souls Remastered. Yeah, I don't have any of those on this PC Steam account, and I should probably own all of them. But I wouldn't finish them. I didn't finish the first game. I wouldn't really finish any of the others. I'm not getting to a point where I am a better player at games. If anything, I'm getting worse at games. I'm playing them more and more on casual. So unless there's a Dark Souls mod out there, this is a hidden object game, so I'm going to think about removing that. Yeah, unless there was a mod out there that made Dark Souls a lot easier, I feel like I'm just trying to own those to be helpful. I kind of forgot that Darksiders 3 came out completely. That's a little weird, because that was a game I was somewhat hyped around. And not only did Darksiders 3 come out, the spin-off Darksiders game came out. So there's been like 2 Darksiders games that have come out, and they've pretty much slipped my mind. So yeah, that's weird. If anything, I should make sure the other game is out. Here we have Darwin's Test, which I think we can remove that. Data Live, Rio Reincarnation. We'll think about that. Daydreamer, Daymare 1998, The Blob 1 and 2. Those are some kids games I would want to cover. I think Dead Cells is now done. I don't think there's going to be any new content coming out for that, so that'd be fine. Again, just some of these games are too expensive. This game, Dead End Road, I want to check out. Dead in Vineland, maybe not so relevant. Dead Island Definitive Edition, again just a remaster and kind of a big change from the original Dead Island game, so, and maybe not in the best way. Of course, the Dead Island series didn't really go anywhere, but it would not be a terrible idea to try to keep going down that path. But it would be way smarter just to play Dying Light. Dead or Alive 6. I think we can remove that as an option. Dead or School would be a difficult game to cover. Dead Rising 2 and Dead Rising 1. Yeah, I probably should buy Dead Rising 1. Comparing, I've been doing a lot of comparison of The Evil Within 2 to Dead Rising, and yeah, they do feel like similar types of games. And yeah, none of the Dead Rising games up to Dead Rising 2 off the record are badly reviewed. I think it's more just Dead Rising 3 and 4 that are the problems. They're just not quite as good as you would have hoped. Let's see. This is a RPG game, JRPG game. The Death to Spies series. I don't recall that one at all. Deep Sky Derelicts, I remember when that came out, and that was slightly hyped and then forgotten. Yep, that does really happen a lot. Things get hyped, and then less than 2 weeks out of after the release, you've completely forgotten about them, and they have no staying power. It's just always on to the next big thing. Let's see. Here we have an adventure game. Here we have a game where you play as a shark, which is not the most recent game where you play as a shark. Let's see. This game, Daru Art of Cooperation, probably wouldn't be something I could play. I don't think I'd actually ever cover Descent. It's a pretty hard to play game, but again, I just want to own on Steam these old games to support them. Although who I'm really supporting and what I'm really supporting is questionable in a lot of the cases. Detention, still a horror game. Date the Devil in the Details Uncensored. This is mixed, and see, that clearly isn't more of an adult game, so that doesn't need to be there. Devil May Cry 5, apparently not easy to purchase, so maybe that is a better version. And then the Devil May Cry HD collection. I should get the Devil May Cry series, and that would be a nice action series to play. I don't know if this game, Deus Area, is a visual novel. If it is, there's 2 games in the series. Digimon Cyber Sleuth. Maybe there's a reason to play that. Disgaea 2, Disgaea 5. I'm not sure if 3 and 1 and 4 are available. Dishonored 2 and Dishonored Death of the Outsider. There's actually 2 Dishonored games, come to think of it, that I need to get. It definitely goes to show that some choices have been made as far as what games to get and what games I wanted to cover. Disney Hercules. A lot of these Disney games I think I still probably would want to just own in case they disappeared in the Disney vault like the Disney movies did. Because that does feel like that could very well happen, is that you would need a Disney Plus element to or Disney Plus account to play Disney games. Doctor Who Infinity, it's the old Doctor Who and it's a match game. I don't see a reason to play that. In fact, it's like the old Doctor Who probably at this point. Doki Doki Literature Club, at some point I might cover that, but maybe not. Don't forget our esports stream, I believe is a visual novel. Don't Notice Me. I'll check out what that is. A lot of games that start don't. Okay. Don't Starve, Donut County, Doom 3, Doom 3 BFG. I'm still not sure if you really need to own both of those. Doom 64 is the latest Doom to be released. And then Doom Eternal, which, yeah, when the price gets down, that would be something I'd be willing to buy and play. Doracone. We'll check this out. Here we have Double Dragon 4, Double Dragon Trilogy, both mixed. So maybe I don't really need to play the Double Dragon games or own them. Double Dragon Neon. Dragon Age Origins Ultimate Edition, which I assume is different than Dragon Age Origins Awakening, but maybe not. Dragon Ball Fighter Z. Maybe this won't have relevance in the next couple of years, but it probably does, and it probably is the best option you're going to get to play a Dragon Ball Fighter game on PC for 5 to 10 years from now. Alright. Let's see. Dragon Quest 11. That probably won't ever go down in price. I should play that. And it would be fairly easy to play Dragon Quest 11 and then just ignore all the previous Dragon Quest games. Dragon's Lairs games would be fairly easy to make short coverage of. Drake and the 99 Dragons is one of the worst games ever, so it's kind of relevant for that reason. A lot of Dreamfall chapters and Dreamfall The Longest Journeys. I'm not sure you actually need both of these games though. This Dresden File game, cooperative card game. Actually, if it's cooperative, you may not actually be able to play it because there's probably no fan base still playing it. The Dresden Files books caught my attention when they made a sci-fi series on it about a decade ago, and I don't know if there's really anything else that could be said about it. They made a few episodes and then they canceled the series, and I'm not sure the Dresden books themselves ever wrapped up the full story. This game is called Dude Stop. Let's check that. This game is called Duet. Let's check that. Yeah, real questionable whether I need Duke Nukem Forever. And the Duke Nukem 3D 20th Anniversary World Tour is $20 still. Here we have a game called Dungeons, and then a game called Dungeons the Dark Lord, both of which are not positively reviewed. But Dungeons 3 is, so maybe at that point I just decide to only play Dungeons 3. I probably should make more of those decisions. Dying Light right now is only $13.59. This is probably about the best deal you're going to get for Dying Light. And it would eliminate, after playing Dying Light, a lot of worse versions of zombie games out there. There's kind of no reason to play them at that point. Dynasty Warriors 7, Dynasty Warriors 8. I think we can fairly remove Dynasty Warriors 7 from that section. Here we have something called Dysfunctional Systems, which I think are visual novels. And we have a game called Dystopia that's mixed. I don't think we're gonna make it all the way through the wish list at this rate. We're about a quarter of the way through. And yeah, if I give it like one more game and we'll stop at F on this, and then that'll just be the end of this brief partial wish list cleanup. And maybe we'll do more of this on Wednesday, if we can't do a draft, and if there isn't a bunch of news. Otherwise, I'll probably just end up doing it off screen. the follow list cleanups and the wish list cleanups footage never really felt like it got any views, but it was an interesting attempt at highlighting what is done behind the scenes while maintaining such a large Steam account and trying to be a video game critic. Alright, so we have Earn to Die 2, but not Earn to Die 1. So let's check that out. We have several Earth Defense Force games, which maybe I'd get into that. We have the Earthworm Jim 3D and Earthworm Jim 2, but not Earthworm Jim 1, apparently. Echoplex. Eden looks like it might be a visual novel, but it's overwhelmingly positive. I may really just go through all these games and say, nope, they're all legitimately on the follow list, on the wish list, for legitimate reasons, and there's no reason to remove any of them, even if they are reviewed badly. But yeah, I want to give it a thought. Like this Emma, the story is a full motion video story that's just like really short. Here we have another visual novel. Let's see, this I think is just a hidden object game, and another hidden object game, and another hidden object game of the same series, so we should think about removing those. I don't think I really need to play any more hidden object games at all. And then some of these just look bad. Also, I don't know particularly what I was thinking. Epic Battle Fantasy looks like RPGs. See, Eric the Unready doesn't look particularly good, and it's not reviewed well. It doesn't have any reviews. Let's see, Escape Dead Island, Escape First. I think I still would like to find some escape the room games that are good, but it doesn't inherently mean that I just want anything that's an escape game. Let's see, we have something called Event Zero. We have Eventide, which looks like it is more hidden object games. EverQuest and EverQuest 2. Everspace, maybe, but probably wouldn't want to play it. Space games just never feel interesting to me. Evoland 1 and 2, but then Evoland Legendary Edition. So I should think about if that's the same game. And then Exapunks. And then that brings us to Fable. And so I guess I was wrong about that. We're going to not stop at E, we'll stop at the end of F instead. So we have Fable, The Lost Chapters, Fable Anniversary, game called Fabric that doesn't look that interesting. Is Factorio being labeled as early access, but it's coming out of early access. $30 right now. Here we have Fairy Legends of Avalon. We'll check that out. And Fairy Blossom. It's not that. Fallout 2. And I think I already have Fallout 3, but not the Game of the Year edition. So I think I need the DLC for that. Or someone gifted me Fallout 4. I think somebody gifted me Fallout 4 and I never bought Fallout 3. And I really am just in the weird position where I probably should just play Fallout 4 and forget about the previous Fallout games for a few years. Otherwise, there's Fallout Tactics. Far Cry, similar situation in that you could probably fairly easily just not play any of the Far Cry games at all. There's really maybe a decent reason to play Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, but Far Cry 1 and Far Cry 2, not really. Far Cry 4, not really. Far Cry 5, doesn't seem like it really at all. And yeah, Far Cry 5 is still $60 from 2 years ago. Far Cry Primal, that probably is your best bet if you're going to play a Far Cry game. Let's see what you have. This game that was a little too expensive. This looks like a visual novel. Fatal 12. Fate/Extella. Part of the Fate series. Fate/Extella Link. Those probably would be relevant since the Fate anime series is so popular, or the Fate novel series is so popular. Fault, Milestone 1 and Milestone 2. I'll think about this. See, the other danger here, though, is that I would remove a bunch of really good visual novels. At some point in my mind, change my opinion and say, hey, I'd really love to have a curated list of visual novels that I'd like to purchase, and I would have at that point eliminated that list and would have to start over from the beginning. Yeah, I'm just getting wrecked here. He's gonna defeat me. There's basically nothing that could be done. See. Final Fantasy 3, Final Fantasy 4, Final Fantasy 4, the after years, Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy Type 0, Final Fantasy 5, Final Fantasy 6, Final Fantasy 7. Is there really a reason to own Final Fantasy 7? I think there probably is. Final Fantasy 8, Final Fantasy 10, 10-2, HD Remastered, Final Fantasy 13, Zodiac Age, Final Fantasy 15, Final Fantasy 3, Final Fantasy 13, and 13-2. So just like every Final Fantasy game out there is still a consideration. This game is finally down to the right price. Fire Pro Wrestling might make sense. Five Nights at Freddy games, I don't know if there's really any relevance there. Flashback as a series compared to the original Flashback, the remake, I don't know if it's really worth it, but it would be cheap and it would be a nice comparison to play the original game and then compare it to the remake, which I guess I'll check to make sure that is the case, that both of those games are made from the same developer and their one is a remake of the other. I don't know if there's really any relevancy here to play as Flower, play this game Flower. And then here we have some more visual novels called Flowers Leave. Let's see. Here we have one called Forgiveness Escape Room. A Forsaken Remastered game called Fort Meow. Fortissimo and National version. That's another visual novel. Like, it's not asking me to do anything right now. The other guy is just taking forever, or my internet's taking forever. Is there anything else here? This game called Freeze Me is mixed, so we should check that out. Friday the 13th Killer Puzzles is free. I think it has DLC in it. I played that on played it on my cell phone. Let's see. Another visual novel. Fury. Definitely want to play that at some point. A lot of these games are also kind of labeled as Steam Edition. I'd like to play the Galgun series. I don't think I'd have to do too much censoring on this, but they are extremely expensive, and Galgun, the double piece in particular, has a ton of DLC stuff that either you need or you don't need, depending on your own personal preferences. I don't know how I'd really cover Gary's mod if I was to play that, and I don't know how relevant it really is. But yeah, Fury was the last one, so we will stop at G, and this will be our last game. And honestly, I probably should just concede and save ourselves some time, because yeah, we're not gonna win there. So we've gone about 3 hours, 2 hours and 46 minutes from the looks of it. And yeah, because of a slow Monday, we were able to make some background progress on cleaning up my wish list, which definitely is helpful. The last thing I want to do is have people gift me a game that I'm just not excited about, and thus I don't ever get around to playing it. Even games I am excited about, I'm particularly too slow to get around to playing them. Let's see, we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more orbs, and then we'll have the mastery in full. And here we have yet another pack that is not giving us anything new. We definitely didn't get wins. Well, we're getting like 3rd and 4th copies of some cards. So I wish there was an indicator there telling you when you get a 3rd or 4th copy or a 2nd copy of something, instead of knowing that it's, or thinking or just assuming that it's the last 5th or 6th copy of something. Yeah, so next level we get a skin, level after that we get that, and then we have a pack and another skin and another pack, and then a mythic card reward, and then another skin and 500 gold, and then a Theros pack, and then a skin, and then the sleeve, and then another pack and another 200 gems, a skin, another pack, another avatar, another card, another skin, another pack, another skin, another card. And at level 80, that's when you just start getting uncommon card rewards. And uncommon card rewards are going to be a little weird, because if we look at standard, which I assume is all they would offer, and we say we want uncommon cards that we have either 3 copies of or not collected, this amount is not a huge amount. It's some, certainly. It's probably 200 or 300 cards in totality there that they could gift me, but it's not a lot. And if we, I think we have to search twice if we want to do this properly. If we look at what we actually just don't even have 1 copy of, there's, I guess, maybe another 200 plus cards. Yep. This is actually kind of a longer list than I thought it would be. Alright, well, that's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a gift card or gift me a game off my wishlist. Thus, the whole point of cleaning up the wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good